Hello benders and non-benders. In the world of Avatar, a need for balance is fundamental. Balance is made as the center between all things, whether it's between the nations, humans, and spirits, or even benders and non-benders alike. But despite this, I disagree and argue that the concept of balance in the bending power system is kind of unbalanced, as the discipline of waterbending is absolutely overpowered. Now, in clarity, this doesn't mean to say that being a waterbender inherently makes one more powerful than any other type of bender. However, the capabilities of the element of water are absolutely as vast as the seas, which easily makes it the most versatile element. In terms of combat, a proficient waterbender may be capable of simultaneously executing staggering offense as well as a solid defense. Tarlok, in his fight against the Avatar Korra, defends against two pillars of flame with ease while maintaining his defensive position as he proceeds to launch shards of ice at Korra in a blistering speed, swiftly shifting the fight and situation in his favor. And the approach is only quelled by the Avatar's ability to shift from a fiery assault and earthbending based shield. And this type of duality is one that is only rivaled by the likes of earthbending. But with that, you'll end up sacrificing visibility. Although I suppose this weakness can be supplemented by the seismic sense technique of Toph Beifong. But then again, even disregarding the exclusivity of this technique being limited to the Beifong family and those close to them, if a target is standing on anything other than Earth, or the terrain happens to be an area of snow, which is a traditional waterbending friendly environment, then you're likely in trouble. Waterbending also happens to be the only bending aside from the rare technique of lava bending capable of phase shifting freely. And so a watery onslaught may be made instantly into an icy one by just simply getting a significant amount of water on an opponent and instantly turning it to ice to immobilize them, making a waterbender pretty much easily winning the fight. As we see in Katara's fight against Princess Azula, a waterbender can move freely even when completely encased in ice. And to truly depict how this capability reaches levels of absurdity, I show you the Book 4 of The Legend of Korra against the ridiculous-looking giant mech. After the many grueling and laboring attempts to stop it in its tracks, when it finally stops, it's this very move, where Korra single-handedly bends and expels tons of water upwards and instantly freezes it. Now I want you to think about this, as Korra does this without tapping into the Avatar state, which is to say that any proficient waterbender would be capable of doing just the same. This is one incredible feat that no other bending technique can achieve in a merit of one person alone under normal circumstance. The closest feat to it during this fight is the toppling of a skyscraper, which took the combined effort and strength of 3 proficient and accomplished earthbenders, and even then, it didn't amount to much at all. Now, before we progress onward to where the concept and scales of balance being absolutely demolished, it's important that we recognize the supposed biggest weakness of waterbending: the terrain. The likes of firebenders and airbenders are generally capable of using their abilities whenever, wherever. But earthbenders and waterbenders are not so lucky. Considering humans are examples of land mammals, earthbenders ultimately suffer this blow to a lesser extent. Throughout the series, you'll often see waterbenders make up for this weakness by carrying canisters of water on their person, which doesn't sound all that great, but consider this one. With only such a limited amount of water at their disposal, many of them somehow still managed and are capable of going toe-to-toe with other elemental benders on equal ground. For me, that's just absurd. Just imagine when they're exposed to more water. And this alleged weakness may be inversely seen as a strength, as similar to our real world. The vast majority of the planet they inhabit is made up of water. A master waterbender can manipulate water within plant life, or even the atmosphere itself. Unless you're a waterbender, consistent combat on the seas without the aid of any modern technology is all but impossible, which is a pretty sizable limitation for all other kinds of benders. And that sort of home court advantage with the northern and southern water tribes is unparalleled. When it rains, waterbenders get a power boost. During the night, waterbenders get a power boost. And during the full moon, waterbenders get an absolutely massive power boost. The only other bending discipline that receives any sort of power boost would be the firebending, either during the day when the sun shines, or even once every 100 years when Sozin's comet comes around. So unless you're confronting a waterbender in the desert, you may have a hard time putting that weakness to good use. And oh boy, even then, there's an absolutely busted way of bypassing even that, but we'll save the best for last, as we still have a long way to go. Waterbenders possess a form of all-purpose healing exclusive only to them, and it's truly remarkable. The closest thing we ever see from any other bending discipline is the technique and process of acupuncture via metal bending, and its only purpose is to rebalance one's chi. When the Banti tribe recovered Korra, the elder shaman uses firebending to sense a problem within Korra's avatar spirit, but in the end, they used water to heal her. So it seems that none of the other elements have anything close to the healing capabilities of waterbending, and this is a technique thoroughly taught by the Northern Water Tribe for generations in the current era. It's not gender specific. In Book 2 of Korra, we're also introduced to a form of healing, specifically for the purpose of cleansing and calming spirits, which may also be used on multiple targets at once. And as far as we know in the series, this is the only bending technique capable of quelling aggression within spirits. Tenzin, an airbending master who dedicated his life to such things, had no other airbending techniques to contribute. I'd like to believe that the other elements would have their own variations, but as it currently stands, that's just mere speculation. What's more to say to this is that this variation of healing also has the ability to damage one's spirit, as you can literally destroy a person's soul. Did you hear that right? I'll say it again. A waterbender literally can purge one's soul, like if that's not busted, then what is? The best answer to that? Bloodbending! Bloodbending is by far the single most busted and overpowered technique or form of bending in the entire Avatar franchise, and it's a style of waterbending that, with the exception of a fellow bloodbender or the Avatar trapped into the Avatar state, that no one can truly oppose. It's an absolutely busted ability that in the flashback of The Legend of Korra, the court literally had to sanction it, in canon, as bloodbending was deemed illegal, and that's only based on Hama's technique, which requires a full moon. Yakone, being a mastermind criminal against the law with an insatiable lust for power, was able to not only bloodbend at any given time, but capable of doing so with just his mind and with his ability. Yakone, all alone, managed to incapacitate an entire courthouse. Notable attendants include Sokka, the chief of the Southern Water Tribe, Toph Beifong, one of, if not the greatest earthbender in the history, and Aang, the Avatar himself, all at the same time. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. This power was so overwhelmingly dangerous that Yakone had to have his bending taken away using the technique that Aang used against Fire Lord Ozai. And even in the later years, Amon took bloodbending to the next level by taking the bending of others away, similar to the Avatar. His power was so absolutely crazy, in fact, he's the only major villain in the entirety of the series and franchise to not get a true final battle. He eventually fled when he was exposed as a fraud, but during his time in the series, there's not a single person in existence that could confront him and handle him in a fight. And maybe you're imagining like, really, come on, bloodbending is extremely rare, and is it really worth factoring all of this? Well, the answer is yes, since the only reason it's rare is because it's illegal. A waterbender learning this technique may not be capable of attaining Amon levels, but with enough training, even a bender like Tarlok, who was by no means a prodigy, could take out almost anyone in the world. Waterbending is absolutely crazy, and it's no wonder why the main villains of Book 1 and 2 in The Legend of Korra were all waterbenders. With waterbending, there's just so much you can do with it, and I mean by far it has the most techniques in the series. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into waterbending. Although waterbending also still stands out as one of the most versatile and flexible elements in the series. Even though waterbending is used as offense, defense, and healing during Aang's era, still, most waterbenders wouldn't even put up a fight against the Fire Nation during the 100 Years' War, or let alone go on a conquest of conquering all elemental nations. Speaking of conquest, do you want to know what would happen if the Water Nation attacked instead of the Fire Nation? Will this twisted alternate story change the course of the history of Avatar: The Last Airbender? How would it affect the series in The Legend of Korra? Well, that'll be the subject of another video. In the meantime, check out this cool anime video here to see more. Go ahead, click it!